We are back, Patrick and Jakub, the dynamic duo with the Mining Your Business podcast. Show all about process mining, data science, and advanced business analytics. How are you doing today, Jakub?
I'm doing quite nice, Patrick. Hi.
Joining us today on the podcast is Sebastiaan van Zelst, head of process mining group at Fraunhofer FIT, founder of the most downloaded process mining Python library, PM4Py, and co-creator of Cortado, a process mining software that unifies the world of manual process modeling and automated process discovery. Let's get into it.
Hi there, process mining community. Welcome to yet another episode of Mining Your Business podcast. Did you think that with our previous guests such as Wil van der Aalst or Marlon Dumas, we were getting technical? Well, let's wait for today's guest with Sebastiaan van Zelst, head of the process mining group and a deputy head of the FIT department at Fraunhofer, a German applied research organization. Oh, and also a researcher and a Python expert. Sebastiaan, welcome to the Mining Your Business podcast. It's a huge pleasure to have you on our show.
Thank you. I'm happy to be on the show.
First things first, Sebastiaan, congratulations on a recently born baby daughter.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Yeah, I guess, family, business is always exciting stuff. But however, we today have a process mining topic in mind. And first question I would actually have on you is, how is it that every process mining researcher seems to be from the Netherlands?
Good question. I think inevitably, you had Wil on the show, Wil van der Aalst, as you already introduced. So, as he's been a driving force for the field for many years, I guess he, sort of naturally attracted some people that were studying there, interested in doing a PhD, and it kind of spiraled out of control. But these days it's getting very international at the same time. But I guess it's Wil that is a major source of this phenomenon.
Yeah. I guess those are also the reasons why he's called the godfather of process mining. It's exciting that he sparks this young generation of process mining, I would say, members or researchers across the globe. But it's also cool whenever I see the resumes of the guests that we have, that most of them worked with him at some point at any paper or university in Eindhoven or Aachen. And it's very exciting how this community is actually revolving still in a relatively smaller circle.
Yeah, indeed, but getting bigger and bigger by the day.
Absolutely.
So, Sebastiaan, the first, let's say, I would like to really discuss your career. And you work in Fraunhofer, which is the research institute in Germany. You are a head of process mining there, and since it's a research institute, does it mean that you are kind of this bridge between like a pure academia and industry, or do I understand it wrong?
No, that's actually exactly what it is. Fraunhofer is actually quite a large scientific organization established after the Second World War. Actually, that is having exactly this mission. So it's a non-profit organization with the sole purpose to transfer results from academia into industrial applications. That's exactly what we do. So spot on.
So, in general, what do you do as the deputy head of data science and artificial intelligence?
Well, as the deputy head, I support our general head of the department. Right, so it's a mixture of certain leadership activities as well as administrative tasks. It's in that sense, it's a minor role that I play. My main responsibility is leading a group that focuses on process mining, which I actually inherited from Wil van der Aalst some time ago.
So, what do you do in this process mining department?
Our main goal is twofold. On the one hand, so most of the team members that are in my group, they also are PhD students, which I supervise. we are strongly related to the research group of Wil van der Aalst, so he's often acting as a promoter, and I'm taking care of the day-to-day supervision of these people. So on that perspective, we do research. We try to develop new things. What's important for the work of our group is that somehow, specifically for the PhD students, it has to have a bit of an applied nature of what they do. So the problems somehow have to be real, or there should really be a strong tool or software component that flows out of this research. And secondly, we try to do projects with industry. Where we try to do all kinds of process mining related stuff, ranging from applying it to developing or co-developing technology.
So I've heard that as a researcher, it's hard to get your hands on some real world data. So is this kind of industry approach like the one of those golden nuggets? Do you have to go out and beg these companies so to have your researchers work on this topic? Or is it more the other way around, that they really want to work with you? Like, how does that come about?
It's a good question. On the one hand, we don't have that issue so much when you compare it to the more classical researchers. Because, of course, we're a non-profit organization, but in the end, we just do projects together with the industry partners, trying to help them achieve a business goal or understand their processes better. So whenever we apply process mining, we definitely get data. We do not always necessarily use the data in our scientific outputs. So how you should look a bit more at those projects is often when we do these projects, we observe certain problems that we then later try to generalize a bit, and then in the end write a paper about. If we're lucky, we can then use an anonymized form of the data that we've been working with, but it's not our main aim of these projects. It's really basically helping our partners in achieving their goals, and whatever scientific ideas we get out of it, the synergetic side effect.
What would be interesting also for me is what kind of projects are you actually working on then? Because I can imagine what academia works on. They have a lot of theories that they're trying to solve, or problems they're trying to solve. And then on the other side, it's us, it's people who are implementing, let's say, the standard processes, and then it's Fraunhofer. So how does a typical project look like, and how do you even distinguish between, let's say, this difference between it's already too business oriented or it's already too academical?
So I would distinguish what we do in roughly 3 categories. There's actually a bit more, but to try to categorize it a bit. So on the one hand, we are active in trying to apply process mining, so trying to effectively analyze event data that originates from a process. That's something that we do together with actually colleagues that are more from business informatics. So we tend to cover the technical aspects of these projects. They tend to cover the business questions, and it's a very nice collaboration. So those are projects where eventually a project partner provides us with data of a process. We analyze such data. We come to some sort of conclusion. That's often a report, or when preferred, just a presentation trying to highlight what are the main issues, where is improvement potential, etc. And then we in certain cases go into a larger scale project where we, for example, try to implement the analysis that we did in, for example, the commercial tool of choice of the industry partner. That's one sort of type of project. So that's a typical thing that we do. We start small with more custom tooling. Then we try to look, okay, what did we get out of it? Can we adopt this in any commercial solution?
So that sounds awfully similar to what you and I do, Jakob, doesn't it? Right?
Kind of.
Yeah. So we do something very, very similar. So do you think there's what do you think is like the main difference between doing it from like an academic point of view and doing it from a more industry point of view? Because, we're on the industry side, we implement it directly with customers. What do you think makes the big difference to doing it with that academic aspect?
I think in the end for us, the goal is always to learn something or to transfer knowledge. I also, for every project that I do, I have to make the case, right? So, of course, there's differentiating factors there. Another thing is that we tend to not focus so much on highly standardized processes necessarily. Right. Of course, if we collaborate with an industrial partner that says, would you like to look at the purchase to pay process or the order to cash process, we won't necessarily say, no, we're not going to do that. As you guys are probably well aware, every process and corresponding data set has numbers of challenges. Yeah. So the learning aspect is actually easy to cover there. But in general, we have to specify this. And at the moment that a certain type of analysis would get very repetitive, I should actually try to teach then the industrial partner how to do it themselves.
Right. But
obviously there will be overlaps with what industrial, it's not a black and white thing, I guess. So yeah, there will be definitely overlaps with what you guys do. But I think that's the difference. And I prefer to focus on core processes of companies because it has more potential for improvement.
So you already touched on this a little bit about some of the research that you guys do. So this is like secondary or at least separate from the industry implementations. Can you give us some examples or at least tell us a little bit about what kinds of problems that you guys are focusing on your research?
Yeah. So there's a bunch of research lines that we're working on. Of course, when you look at my publications list, you'll find also certain what we would say exotic theoretical things or
I have to say I was trying to read it into a bit. It was very challenging, very interesting things that I've never heard of.
Yeah, it depends when I have time, which these days, specifically with a young daughter, is not so much the case. I tend to write more theoretical papers because that's something I like personally. When you look at more strategically research lines, one big research line that we have been pushing with one of my team members that focuses on event abstraction, where the idea is that you try to lift the recorded event data into a higher level notion. There's another strong research line that is focusing on trying to integrate domain knowledge into process discovery. So trying to leverage the knowledge that is inside an organization regarding the execution of a process, trying to embed that in the algorithms that try to discover process models. A third sort of more recent direction that we are pushing, but we haven't published about it per se, we're still in the, let's say, startup phase, is to try to exploit historical process event data for the purpose of scheduling, trying to make the schedules of processes more realistic, or try to dynamically counteract if certain events occur that would violate the schedule, trying to smartly compute new schedules. And on the longer run, it's also a bit related to the things like some of our outings to the industry that we haven't really discussed yet. Is more on the software development side, and I'm still very interested to try to see to really push process mining algorithms at scale. So to really design distributed approaches to be able to handle billions of events, essentially. Something that has my personal interest, which I want to also push in the upcoming time.
So, Sebastiaan, what can companies actually do to come to Fraunhofer and say, okay, we have this very specific problem in the process. We want to work with you guys to solve it?
Well, there's a few ways. Well, ideally, they contact me, not necessarily directly. They can contact us over various channels. We also have what we call Center for Process Intelligence, which is this joint collaboration that I referred to earlier. What I prefer to do in such cases is to first sit together with the industrial partner and try to get a feeling of, first of all, the process, what is the potential there also, and whether the data footprint is a really accurate representation of that process. That could in itself be a short project, not necessarily the case, could also be a shorter workshop. Sometimes you can easily decide it in 1 to 2 hours. And usually what we prefer to do is do a shorter term project, say 2 to 3 months, where we try to analyze the data, also support an extraction of the data if that's necessary. Where we typically would try to discover a normative process model. We would do some conformity checking on that normative model, and we would also do some performance and analysis. And then usually, time runs out. And as I said, as a non-profit organization, you cannot go too much over time in that sense. Then you get issues. And then if we see improvement potential, we typically try to look at further projects together with the industrial partner. And it depends on what they would like to do with their results and how they would like to embed it in their organization, etc., etc.
So you mentioned that these implementations typically are short, 2 to 3 months, but do you also do longer term kind of cooperations and collaborations? And how long do these collaborations how long can they last?
We do that. So with a industrial partner, obviously I'm never allowed to say which exact partner that is. We basically have one of the members of the Center for Process Intelligence being in the organization largely responsible for process mining endeavors or supporting there in implementing a implementation in process mining ecosystem. We have another collaboration for a longer time with a large insurance company, in which one of the daughter companies is using our software as a process mining solution. And the idea there is actually that we collaborate with them also explicitly on new features that are specific for them or specific for the insurance domain. And with that company, we're trying to also enter a bit in a sort of relationship that we are their first to go to group when they have process mining related questions or projects that they would like to set up. So and then of course there's the larger R&D type of projects where you have a multi-year agreement with the goal to really develop novel technology specific for the industrial partner. Although these are hard to obtain because such a project is often a longer term collaboration. So that smaller companies is very difficult for the average smaller company to do these type of projects.
Well, what you've said raises a lot of questions for me, actually, because I was just about to ask some like real life examples of what kind of problems you are maybe trying to solve, because I know our listeners just love examples. And when you mentioned insurance, that also basically rang a bell for us because we also had an insurance customer where we did some insurance related processes. And it's pretty cool also for us as a partner to look at process mining from different perspectives. It's not everything is not order to cash or purchase to pay. There are also different processes, and it's exciting. So, not to name the companies, obviously, could you at least go a bit more into examples of what kind of let's say, insurance specific issues were you trying to solve?
Yes. So we worked on. At some point, we just analyzed the general handling of claims for such a company. At the moment, the company is using really the process mining software to improve certain KPIs, and the discussions we have are primarily on the technical side of things. So, which charts would they like to see? Which filtering functionality would they would they want to have? We did recently have I think they've been focusing more on the customer experience and processes related to that. I think they recently showed us that as part of their process mining endeavor, because it's not only our software, of course, that they use to analyze things, but they also actively take the results and implement them in the systems that they actually use to drive that process. Also, certain parts were actually then again, I think, exported to Power BI or something. So, but in the end, they managed to improve one of their KPIs significantly in the end. But when they finished that whole cycle, I wouldn't know exactly what specific process it was, but I remember it was something related to customer journey, and specifically, I think the time required to respond to something. In another parallel universe, I would say, I also supervise, of course, some master students and bachelor students in their graduation process, and there we also have an interesting project at the moment with another insurance company where, he's basically trying to look at exploiting process mining technology for fraud. So basically, to be able to more characterize fraudulent behavior rather than simply having a sort of black box predictor that says, yeah, this is fraud or not. It's trying to understand fraud.
Do you also sometimes have scenarios with your customers and with the research topics that you basically draw a big fat line and say, okay, this is just a no-go because it's simply not realistic to do? Or are you always trying to, let's say, deliver at least some kind of a result?
We have been trying to deliver always results. But yeah, I think we learned the hard way that it's not always possible. And for me, the red line should be that the data should really be there. And sometimes organizations, what I mean with that is sometimes organizations, they say the data is there, but then I haven't seen it. And then we embark on a project and it turns out the data is not really there. Or in other cases, I mean, we like challenges where, for example, we've been doing several projects where the data is not stored at all as events, but for example, as time series or, so sensor values or measurements, where you then first try to transform certain sensoric measurements into certain actions. Those are very challenging projects, not necessarily problematic, but of course, what you get out of that is not always something that is directly translatable into meaningful insights. So yeah, data should be there.
Yeah, I remember we used to have a customer. It's been a while. It happened a couple of years ago, who wanted us to analyze emails, like a text and content of emails. So we were thinking, maybe let's not do that.
Yeah, that's another thing that I would like to add. There should be also a notion of a process, actually. That's sometimes you have data that is in a form that you could say, okay, you could look at this as events, but then generally, if you would, for example, have a system where humans are free to do whatever they want, yeah, the truth is that then it will be not necessarily random, but behavior will be more pseudo-random. But this large freedom basically comes at a very chaotic footprint and process. So, then also tend to get more difficult.
Before we jump on to the next topic, and I know Patrick's already excited about that because it's going to be Python related, I wanted to ask also, as I know that there are a lot of listeners among our ranks who are students or visiting universities, working on their thesis, thinking about applying on PhDs and so on. What would a student have to do to start, let's say, applying for you and working with you on some of these very interesting research topics that you're working on?
Well, the thing with our, if you work in our group, you would work 3 days per week as basically on projects, and 2 days per week is devoted on scientific work. Usually when you look at PhD in Europe, it's important to mention PhD positions in the university, it's the other way around. 60% is research, 40% is education. So people that would like to do a PhD in our group really need to have an interest in applying this in practice. That's very important. I mean, there are some people don't have that interest. Then you shouldn't do this. People also should realize that if you apply this in practice, that there's always a gap between what you research, the assumptions and abstractions we have in research versus what you do in practice. This is simply a big gap. So something that is very important. And secondly, if you want to do a PhD, you have to be intrinsically motivated to do that, because otherwise it can be a bumpy and also challenging road to perform a PhD.
For everyone involved.
Yeah, that also affects the supervisory team usually. Yeah, this is true.
Okay. So if you want to work in Fraunhofer, you have to be motivated.
Yeah, I guess it helps for most jobs.
Yeah.
But specifically motivated for doing things in practice and also being interested in scientific challenges.
Right.
Usually people are either of the two, but not both. So yeah, it's not always easy for us to find people.
All right. Then Sebastiaan, moving on to the next topic, and you already mentioned that with one of your or with some of your customers, you're actually working on your own process mining tool, which is called Cortado. And just to read a description that I found on your website. So Cortado basically enables the users to incrementally add new process behavior to the process model under construction in a visual and intuitive manner. What does it mean? How does it differ from a standard process mining tool and Explorer that I would say most of the listeners are already familiar with from other commercial vendors?
Yeah. It's a lovely sentence, by the way. I don't know if I thought of that or Daniel, who is the main developer. I think Daniel did. No, the idea is that first of all, most commercial tools show process maps, usually, which basically is a representation of which activities can follow other activities in the process. The tool Cortado is trying to discover process models. So those are models that are, for example, BPMN type of models, which have choice constructs, but also parallelism constructs. So the tool basically allows one to abstract a bit more from the data. So I think most commercial tools don't really discover process models. I know Celonis does offer the functionality, but it's at the same time, it's a bit hidden. I think you have to go to the conformance checking tab, and then somewhere you can still find a process model. So the tool, what it allows you to do in a nutshell, it allows you, first of all, it's actually a process model editor. So you can always edit your model like you can also do in Camunda or Signavio or something like that. So you can edit process model. The interaction with the data is that Cortado will show you the most frequently occurring executions. Well, actually, it shows you all executions, but it sorts them based on most frequently. So what I'm trying to say is if for 1,000 instances of the process, you always first see that a request is being sent in the system, and then another check is done, and then another activity. So if for 1,000 different customers, the same set of activities is happening in the same order, it will basically say, okay, this is a very important execution. So you get an overview of all these different executions of the process, and you can actually select which of these you would like to add to the model. So you make a selection, you press enter, or you say discover model. And what the technique will do, it will take the model you have and will try to augment the model with the new behavior that you have selected.
Okay.
So
you have to realize... Oh, yeah, go ahead.
No, so it's not just like on an activity base where you have one activity and you say, oh, that's non-conforming, I don't want that in my model, but it's taking the whole process or variance as they are and saying, yes, this is a legitimate one, or this is a...
Yeah, and the question that the tool answers or sort of is, okay, give me the best possible model that still represents all the behavior that the previous version of the model represented, plus all the executions you would like to also describe. That's what it does. So it's sort of an incremental approach, because you first to realize when you add 10 executions, so you say add these 10 executions, it can be that if in the data set there are 2,000 executions, by trying to learn a model that just describes these 10 executions, you also describe 50 other executions out of the box, because they actually fit the same model that has been learned. That happens.
Oh, so you just then go back and say, well, it didn't cover these points, and maybe I hadn't even considered that this could be an option, and you say, well, I guess this is also okay, and then add it into your model. Okay.
Yeah, and specifically, it also allows you to... we've been looking also a bit at trying to explicitly block behavior, but that's actually much more difficult than the other way around. I think, we did all kinds of improvements. One thing that you can do in the tool is you can freeze. We call that freeze parts of the model. So if you have a certain part of the model that you would say, okay, this, whatever you do, don't touch this, then that can be actually also done by the algorithm.
So I've kind of wanted to ask, in general, why develop this tool in the first place, right? Did you see that there was a distinct lack of this type of functionality that you're building in the market, and you just didn't find a proper tool to do it for you, so you decided to build it yourself? Or generally, how did this tool come about even?
Well, I mean, there have been more attempts to foster interactivity in this type of algorithms. What drove me personally was when I was doing my PhD research. I have been studying process discovery in a more classical sense, so taking an event log, trying to learn a process model that then describes the behavior. So I think I spent 1.5 years extending an existing algorithm, not achieving many results, in all honesty. And then I realized, then I was trying to analyze myself an event data set, trying to use, all the tools that I had available in my toolbox. But I realized that when I really wanted to discover a process model, I would actually inspect the most frequent cases, and I would make a mental image. Okay, if I would take these 3, 4, 5, 6 executions that are very common, and I would combine them in a model, how would that model then look? And then I would be iteratively modeling that by hand. Then again, investigating, okay, if I want to add this new behavior, would it fit? So I noticed that when I was applying this, I was doing something completely different than what we always pretend that we want to do with these process discovery algorithms. Another thing I've noticed in practice is there is an open, publicly available data set regarding to that describes administrative process of road traffic fines. And there, I think the second or third most execution, most frequently executed process is actually people that don't pay the fine. And any process discovery algorithm will, of course, always consider that as normative behavior, because it happens maybe 20 or 30,000 times out of I think a bit less, but it's a significant amount of times people don't pay. Any process discovery algorithm will learn the behavior, and it's questionable whether, if you want to have a view on your process that is as much supported as possible by the data, if you want to integrate that behavior, or whether you want to have a normative model that is backed by data, but that you can also use to quantify unwanted behavior. And I think what we want to do is the second. I would not want to have a model that completely describes everything. I want to have a model that describes my ideal world, but that's also realistic at the same time. and then I realized that by fostering interaction, I expect that the models we can learn are of much higher quality. There's some other benefits that also come naturally by doing this. It's a bit technical to explain, so if you want, I can do that. If not, I can not do that.
Maybe. So essentially, you don't want your process, or let's say we call it the happy path, when you see your most frequented executed path of the process to be already non-conformant, basically. Yeah, to a certain degree.
I've noticed that happy path, like process executions, maybe not the ultimate happy path, but some other execution is also very frequent, is not necessarily always what you would really want the process to be. So, and the problem is to come to that observation, I doubt that having a process model that simply describes that can happen, I doubt whether that is the best possible way to come to that observation.
Yeah.
That it's something is happening that you would not want to happen.
Maybe a question, would you have a specific use case in mind? You already mentioned one with the fines, where basically this functionality would be superior to a standard process discovery available in other commercial tools.
How I look at, this is just a prototype. How I look at the technology we are developing is, I think it is bridging the two worlds of modeling and mining, right? SAP recently bought Signavio for a significant amount of money, so that signifies that somehow modeling processes is very important within organizations. I think that I personally believe that the one future avenue would definitely be that tools like Signavio, but it can also be that Celonis moves towards that direction, get more and more backed by data. So, right, because it's nice to have a process modeling tool which is also allowing you to collaborate with your colleagues. But if the model you make is a completely unrealistic view on the process you are operating, the question is what the model's value is. At the same time, having a model that is an appropriate representation of a process can be very helpful in various dimensions.
So is that a very typical kind of problem that your clients face in that regard, where they say, well, we have a modeling tool and we have a process discovery tool, but there's just nothing kind of that meets in the middle and kind of gives me an accurate depiction of what my actual process is. And that's where you go, well, I've got the tool for you.
I think I'm not sure whether the awareness in the industry is already at that level. Because if you look at the process maps, these artifacts already reveal all kinds of unexpected connections between activities or potential repetition of activities. But I think at some point, if you want to really go one step deeper and you would like to really try to express, okay, this is really what we want it to be. And are we doing that? Or if legislation is dictating that you need to do something in a specific way, for all these type of questions, having accurate models of the process is of vital importance. And I noticed that next week you're going to release a talk with Boudewijn van Dongen, and probably at this point in time it's not released yet, but I can imagine he has somewhat similar opinion.
No spoilers.
Yeah. No spoilers. Yeah. He was my co-promoter, so second promoter. So.
Yeah, there we actually discussed this suitcase use case where we are basically looking where the suitcase will go and trying to map it at a certain part of the process that you are not showing the whole path, but incrementally showing these steps. So I think this could be a very good use case for your tool as well. What you also wrote in the description, and I will read this again, that there is a feedback mechanism that are implemented that notify the user of the quality of the discovered process models. What does that mean?
Well, that basically means that whenever you learn a process model, it will automatically do a full conformance check of the event data with that model. So you get instant feedback. Okay, this new model that you've derived, what percentage of cases does it cover, etc.
And maybe another question would be if, let's say, we also decide to work with your tool, is it also like a public available? Is it for free, or is there some licensing fee? Is this more like a library that you just download and then use?
So this is it's a web-based tool which is packaged as a standalone tool. The same holds, by the way. We have another more analysis-oriented tool, PM4Py. Both of these tools are web applications, meaning you can run them in an organization internally, and you can reach it from anywhere with the web client. But both of them are packaged as standalone tools for any operating system, and you can use them either for academic or non-commercial purposes, and of course evaluation purposes. But our main aim is not necessarily to sell that technology. Our main aim would be to do a project where we exploit that technology together with the industrial partner, to also extending it in a direction that is interesting for the partner.
Now, if it's a web-based tool, I must ask: is how efficient is this tool? Like, how much data can I throw into it before it gives up?
That depends a bit. So both tools have PM4Py actually in the backend. So it's a simple architecture where you have a web service and a front end calls web service, and in the backend PM4Py is running. Of course, the amount of data you can upload depends a lot on the specs of the hardware that is running the backend. We have not yet, but are very interested in, that's related to what I said earlier, in trying to see, okay, can we, hook up Spark cluster and go use some specific library that allows us to do distributed computations. Then it would basically scale until very
you
large
run out of
numbers.
service,
And I think at the moment, of course, there's a limitation. It's hard to pinpoint a number on it. What I think in Daniel's tools, so in Cortado, what I think he does really smart, and I always would advise every industrial entity to also do that, is when he computes these conformance checking artifacts, which is in general can be a fairly computationally expensive thing to do. He always does it in an asynchronous way, right? So he just pushes a number of calls. So it can be that over time the statistics you see change a bit because it's asynchronously updating the results.
Now, Sebastiaan, you already mentioned it a little, and let's moving on a bit from the Cortado tool, and that would be the already mentioned Python libraries. And as a preparation for the episode, I was reading up a bit on your previous career successes and achievements, and you actually developed one of the largest Python library on the market when it comes to process mining. It's called PM4Py. I know Patrick is a big Python nerd and he loves developing stuff himself, although we did not go as far as to develop our own process mining library. What could we use the library for?
In my view, the strength of PM4Py, it would be for people that are more interested in really developing novel things or custom things to do rapid prototyping, for sure. Both scientists, but also I think people that apply process mining in practice, which have a bit more technical focus. That's a very good use case. I think in general the strengths are more the data engineering side of things. Of course, you can compute various statistics. You can learn process models. We have feature extraction, sort of standardized feature extraction for event logs that you can then feed into neural networks for prediction purposes. But I personally use it mostly for like if I have an event log and I need to, I don't know, manipulate the data, or I need to, filter, then I'm using certain parts of it. For discovery, you can also use it, but I think, using a tool that has a bit of interaction is simply easier to use for that.
So it seems to be covering a lot of the, from the data engineering point all the way to like the process discovery part, right? There's a whole bunch that goes on in between. So does it cover all these things? And how does that work? Is it fairly intuitive, and how complex of operations can you do in this tool?
So in the tool, we have implemented a bunch of process discovery algorithms, various filters that are also very specific to process mining and processes, conformance checking, performance analysis of various standard, like also of these process maps. We have a lot, actually, more theoretical work also, like detecting whether a certain model is of a certain class or whether it can be transformed to a certain class. If you have process models in any format, you can generate synthetic data out of it. That's things you can do. There's a lot of these types of functionalities. Probably too much to mention when you look at the ease of use. In the initial versions, I came from a Java background, and the architecture is a bit Java-esque, actually. And we've been trying to more and more change the usage of the tool to be more Pythonic by simply, looking at how do other libraries do that, like pandas, etc. We're planning also to do major release in the upcoming weeks, months, where we are really trying to change a few things under the hoods, primarily using pandas everywhere inside, rather than event log objects, which we custom coded ourselves some time ago.
I have so many questions. One of them being, so how does it work when you decide on, what bugs to fix, or what features to implement, what to change? Is it more that the users of the tool kind of submit bug reports or give feature requests and things like that, and you take that in, or do you have your own milestones, your own agenda that you try and push?
It's a bit of a mixture. For me, the agenda has been lately more on trying to actually cut down some of the functionalities, because from time to time, actually, one of my colleagues did main development. I did more of the steering. I did more developing in the beginning, and he took over gradually. It's been more coordinating recently. My personal focus is that I would like to simplify and I would like to document better. At the moment, that's my personal goal for the library. As I said, it's a bit of a mixture. So of course on GitHub we get pull requests or issues. We also, as we use it ourselves in some of our software, that also reveals from time to time issues and bugs, etc. What sort of is relatively new is that so my colleague Alessandro, who is doing a lot of coding recently for PM4Py, he has also been involved in the development of this more recent object-centric process mining idea. So he's been also implementing support to handle these type of data sets and to discover models with that type of data sets. And I expect that more algorithms will eventually come in that direction. Okay.
It's very interesting. So is this something that you could just install on a laptop and have it run things, or is this also something that companies can implement, on a larger architecture in their kind of server clusters?
They can definitely do that. At the moment, we don't have ourselves any sort of support for distributed computation yet. There are certain companies using PM4Py also in a proprietary fashion, for which we of course provide licenses so that they can do that. Because the license under which PM4Py is released does not allow you to do that.
Okay.
But this is definitely possible. And there are companies doing that.
Mm-hmm. So where do you foresee? Sorry, last question, Jakub, on this topic. So what is the goal? What are you trying to aim for with this project? Just kind of Pythonic versions of some of the mainstream tools and functions that we already see in commercial tools, or do you have some sort of a bigger goal that you're trying to achieve with this Python project?
Yeah, so I think the goal would be to try to enable people to use, I would say, the major process mining algorithms that have been around for a while, have proven useful to be available in Python. If you look at the PROM framework, which sort of still exists and is also used, of course, contains a lot of algorithms that are very hard to use or just simply don't work. So the goal is definitely to make from time to time make an assessment of what is out there in literature and what seems to be also will remain to some degree.
Mm-hmm.
Speaking of goals, Sebastiaan, what gets you excited for the next couple of months and maybe even years when it comes to new research topics and new areas of process mining that you are trying to solve with together with your team and Fraunhofer that you could maybe share us with?
Yeah, so what at the moment excites me a lot is the new research direction that we're trying to push. What I noticed is that, and this is based on actually also interactions with industry, I noticed that the process mining field, which originates from the BPM, the business process management field, somehow we tend to simply assume that the process is executed as if some oracle does that. We don't really take into account that there's people involved and that people have working hours and usually need a schedule or something to do their thing. So we ignore the whole idea of planning ahead. What I also noticed in the operations research community, which is the community that looks at to some degree or largely to automated planning systems, is that they often ignore the dynamic aspect of the real world. So they sort of have this assumption that, okay, you know exactly what you want to do. And in certain cases, this is true. If you look at production, yeah, you probably know a bit better in advance how many cars you want to produce, but still, so many things can go wrong. And I look at event data as sort of the missing link between those two worlds. So we can, on the one hand, operation research can exploit the data and learn from the data, and at some point counteract and revise plannings completely in an automated fashion. Processes can be run much smoother if we improve the schedules and plannings that we have for them. So to me, it feels like a very big gap. It can be if you talk with the operations research guy that he says, no, we've already done that. Right? That's also what scientists sometimes tend to do. But now I've seen, at least in industry cases, where such technology would be extremely helpful.
Interesting. Well, Sebastiaan, time is running by fast. And before we wrap up the episode, I would like to ask you, where could our listeners and our, other process mining nerds, Python nerds, whoever listens to this episode, where can they go and find out more about you, what you've been doing, and eventually also about the Python libraries and your tool, the Cortado?
Well, it's a bunch of websites that I would need to list. I think, the best thing to do is if you would be interested in reading some of my scientific work, I have usually the papers freely available on my personal website. That's sebastiaanvanzelst.com. If you want to know more about applying process mining, you can go to the Center for Process Intelligence website. So is cpi.fit.fraunhofer.de. Very difficult. And finally, we have, of course, a webpage of our research group, which is fit.fraunhofer.de/process-mining. And I'm also available on LinkedIn.
Cool.
So people can send me a message.
Yeah, you will find all the links in our post when it is released. So no worries if you didn't get the long website of Fraunhofer. It'll be there. Sebastiaan, thank you very, very much for coming to the show. It's been a real pleasure. It's as I keep saying, it's always exploring new ways of working, and I already have a lot of ideas, especially for this exploratory approach that you're using in Corsado. So we will definitely catch up on this together with Patrick. So thank you very much.
Yeah, it was fun to be in the show.
All right. For everyone else who's listening, also thank you for that. As you know, you can find us on LinkedIn. If you have any question, just hit us there. We will be sure to answer you, or eventually also answer the question in the podcast. If you have any ideas for future guests or someone who would really like to hear on our show, let us know. You can also find the show notes on the website, mindingyourbusinesspodcast.com. If you like us, leave us a review, give us some comments. We always appreciate it. And thank you for your time, and thank you for being with us. Patrick, Sebastiaan, bye-bye.